Hey there, I'm out here beside my fig tree again. This has kind of become my little sacred spot. I want to talk about my new view of reincarnation in light of non-duality. I have some notes here, so hopefully I'll stay on topic. But this kind of new view, so I believed in like reincarnation the way most people would feel. I sounds like a bug buzzing or something. So the way most people would view enlightenment or reincarnation is that you're living lots and lots and lots of lives over and over again, and it's me specifically living this life and this life, and it's a linear thing going through time, and then eventually you break the cycle of rebirth when you reach enlightenment, and then you don't have to reincarnate anymore. And that's my very limited view of it, having grown up in evangelical Christianity and in the Western world and not really knowing anything about Eastern religions. So that's like my basic understanding of it, of reincarnation. So now my view has changed, because now I see that all things are ultimately one and time is not linear, and really there is no time. We perceive time because we live these limited lives, but the nature of reality is all things are one and time doesn't really exist. So in light of that, this is how my view of reincarnation has changed. This first really opened up for me, or I first started to see this when I read this short story called The Egg by Andy Weir. Andy, W-E-I-R. You can Google it. It's on the web, and it's just a little short page that you can read. Basically, it's a guy, he dies, and he wakes up, he's like in the void, and there's another guy there, and he's like, oh, the other guy says, you died in a car accident, and don't worry, your wife and children will be fine, and blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on to say, what's going to happen now? And he's like, well, of course you're going to be reincarnated. You'll be a peasant girl in 1540 AD. And he's like, what? I'm going back in time? He's like, yeah. And then later he finds out, and so that, like, when I read that part of the story, I was like, oh, like reincarnation going backwards. Because the way I was thinking of it before, it was like, oh yeah, you live each of these lives in order. And so like your next life is moving forward in the future. But oh, you can be reincarnated in the past. That was like kind of like, it was a mind shift for me. And then I was like, oh yeah, well, time doesn't really exist, so that makes sense that like my spirit could be reincarnated in the past. And I have a note here, like, we can look at like time is not linear, it's more like cyclical, because we see the cycles of death and rebirth in nature and in our religious myths. So like there's death and rebirth in a lot of the religious myths. Jesus dies on the cross and is rises again, and he says you must be born again, and you have to take up your cross and follow me, you have to die. Sorry about that. So in the short story by Andy Weir, The Egg, it's called The Egg. In this story, he's told that he is everyone in the world. All the world is different incarnations of the same person, him. So that was huge for me, because that is what I believe. Now that I believe in non-duality, everything is one. So all the different people in the world are one life, just living it out. But it's all source, it's all spirit, it's all the one life expressed in many different forms. And one of the rules is we have to forget all of the previous incarnations. But I think it's all the one consciousness of God living everything. I am every human being who ever lived. The guy asked in the story, I am every human being who ever lived. And the God guy or whatever who he's talking to says, or who will ever live. Yes. So that's what I believe now. All my reincarnations that I've ever lived or will ever live are all me. And it's not me like Elizabeth, who I am now, my ego self. It's the I am. The God within is living each individual life. It makes sense. And he sees that he was Hitler, and he was the people Hitler killed. Everything he did, every act of kindness which the guy did, and every act of violence, every act of suffering, or anytime he hurt someone else, he was doing it to himself. And that's where we can fully embody the teaching of Jesus, love your neighbor as yourself, because they are yourself. They are you. And once you get that, you're able to fully love them where they're at, because you see that was me in my other incarnation. Or I will be that other person in my next incarnation. But, time doesn't really exist, so it's like, I am already that other person. I am already living that life as the person I'm hurting, as the person I'm loving. I am already that person. It's something you have to realize every single day, every single moment, because we are so bound by these laws that we need to forget. And that's part of how we mature in the universe is we have to forget who we truly are and grow into that through separation. The illusion of separation is, this is another person who's nothing like me, and they need to be like me, and they have the wrong political beliefs, and they're wrong, blah, 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 blah. So I'm hating them because they're so wrong. But once you see that they are the other side of the coin, and it's really just one coin, and you've just flipped to the other coin, then you can say, I can love them where they're at, because that's me. That's me when I was that. Now I'm this. But really, it's all one thing. Okay, I'm sorry. It's getting confusing. I'm not making a lot of sense. But we can love our neighbor as ourselves because they are ourselves. That's what this does. That's what oneness, the understanding of oneness and non-duality can do, is help you love others. The golden rule. What you do unto others, you do unto yourself, because they truly are yourself. Just in another life, another incarnation. If all is one, how can you say that you personally and separately lived these specific past lives? People remember their past lives. Oh yeah, I was such and such in a past life, so that's why I'm this way now. That implies that you have one separate soul that is traveling through linear time, which does not exist. Linear time, which does not exist, and your separate soul, which is not separate. And it means that your specific persona, which is tied to your ego, is the thing that is living the incarnation. So you can see how you can get in your spiritual ego by saying, oh, I remember this past life and I was this, and so that's why I'm so special now, because I remember my past lives. And so, you know, you can see how you can get into the ego because you have a separate self. And this is illusion. You're not a separate self. You're not this one soul traveling through time and living only these specific lives. No, you are living every life. You have already lived all lives. You just don't remember it. And that's one of the rules. You need to embrace that you don't remember it. You need to embrace you haven't remembered your lives. It's okay if you remember your lives. You really think you do. That's great. But you should also remember that it's not only these specific lives that you've had, it's all lives. When you detach yourself and say, I've only been this and not this, you're limiting yourself, but you really are the all. God, I am all consciousness. I'm down here. My kids are calling for me. I gotta wrap this up. Okay, so if you're believing you're a separate thing, that ties you to your ego, even if it is your spiritual ego, by saying you've lived these specific lives only and not all the lives, all life. So what I see as enlightenment, you know, ending the cycle of rebirths, that's like what you're trying to achieve if you're Hindu or whatever, or a Buddhist. And that's what the Buddha did. He ended the cycle of rebirth when you reach enlightenment. But I think this is what happens when you realize that there is only one life. There's only ever one life to live. All the incarnations of every plant, yes, plants, minerals, rocks, animals, every person, all of these incarnations are one, which is source, which is the creator, which is God, which is spirit, whatever you want to call it. The one consciousness divided itself into all beings, nature, animals, humans, and that is what you are. Once you realize that, that's enlightenment. That's the end of the cycle of rebirth. Now life is still going to go on. Life is still going to keep creating and being born again and again and again. And it doesn't mean like, oh, you personally as a separate spirit, separate soul is now not going to be incarnated anymore into lives. No, because it's still going on. But I do have a note about that at the end, so I'll get there in a minute. In a minute, I'm making a video. So consciousness divided itself so that it could play and experience itself more deeply. So that's what I think is life is, you know, consciousness was just existing out there, and then it divided itself into incarnations so that it could experience itself more fully. And through the forgetfulness that it is everything, give the illusion of separation so that it could experience itself through separation and mature and grow and expand. And that's just my theory right now. And consciousness, source, spirit, wants to experience joy, pain, suffering, everything. It wants all those things. So that's why we can accept the darkness in the world and the bad things that happen in the world, like Hitler, pedophiles, serial killers, murderers, all these things is God, is source, spirit, because it desires to grow and expand through suffering, pain. It's gathering information through these things. We don't fully understand it, but this is necessary for growth and expansion. Consciousness is always evolving. We know that. We can see that. We can see how humanity has grown and evolved in consciousness throughout our lifetime and looking back on history. But we do have a very limited view of history. We don't know the other cycles that could have happened, like before humans were ever on the planet. So the question is, getting back to what I was saying earlier, will it continue on forever, evolving and growing in knowledge, or will there be a cycle of growth and contraction? Will consciousness expand, reach a certain point, and then contract, and then do it again? Because we see the cycles of death and rebirth happening in nature. Yeah, this is a big question. We don't know. But we do know we're living out our lives, growing, expanding. We die, we come back. We're growing in knowledge. And that's one thing I do disagree with in the story. The Egg short story by Andy Weir, which sparked this whole thinking about reincarnation. He says that the guy is basically in an egg, and once he's lived all the lives, then he can be born for real, and he's basically a god, and then he doesn't experience the cycles of rebirth anymore. So that to me says that there's something that needs to be achieved, and that there's some kind of like breaking point in which something shifts and changes from just being born again and again. And that, you know, maybe there is this cycle of growth and then contraction, and that there's some like thing that's going to happen one day. Like this world is going to end and then there's going to be a new world. I disagree with that. I don't think there's anything that needs to be achieved. Like, oh, I have to achieve enlightenment. So that's one of my points of the benefit of this view of oneness, non-duality, is there's nothing that needs to be achieved. You don't need to achieve enlightenment or remember your past lives. Oh, I have to remember my past lives. You don't need to do that. You don't need to end this cycle of rebirth, or like be saved, or like come into the knowledge of the truth. There's no thing that needs to be done. Even this, like even the realization of, oh, I am all the lives. I am everything. All the people that I encounter are myself. And so you don't even need to do that, but it will help you. It will help you a lot. But yeah, the story implies that there's something that needs to be done and achieved once you've lived all the lives and matured and grown. I disagree with that. I think that life is play. It's a science experiment. It's just a creative dance playing itself out. And when you try to struggle and push against that and achieve something, you're almost always going to be in your ego. Like, look at me, look how enlightened I am. Like, oh, look, I made a video, look at me. Like, even this right now, you know, is achievement, is pushing, and oh, I wish they would understand me. I'm going to explain myself and talk to them in front of this camera, you know, like, there's nothing that needs to be done or said or achieved, because life is life, and there's no way to do it wrong. There's no way to do it right. So yeah, I think that is salvation. That is enlightenment. That is rest. That is ending the cycles of rebirth, is just surrender to life. Whatever it is right now. I'm making a video right now. It's not going to change the world. It's not going to do anything, but this is what is happening right now. This is what I decided to do. I'm just going with it. So, yeah. So, the benefits of this view, the benefits of oneness. You don't struggle. There's nothing that needs to be done, like remembering past lives or gaining enlightenment. Another benefit of this view is that you can get out of your own way and not take your life or your lives so seriously. There's no ego. When you realize that you are all things, you are all beings, whoever incarnated, even nature, rocks, everything, then there's no ego. It's not my specific self living this life, and this life. Now I'm an animal. It's you've already lived those lives. All the lives you will live in the future, and the ones you've lived in the past have already happened. You're just going around living all the lives all the time. So yeah, you get out of your ego. It's not this specific soul living these specific lives. It's all lives. That's oneness. That's non-duality. So through another benefit of this view is you will have more empathy and love towards others when you see that you are really one with them, no matter how different you may seem. So this will knock down your political problems with others. This will knock down your religious differences with others, nationalities, racism, sexism, your feminism, your patriarchy. This is going to knock down all of that because you were a male in your past life, now you're a female. You were a black person in your past life, now you're a white person. You were everything. You're not limited to one specific thing. You're not limited to the human species. You were animals, you were rocks, so getting that full view is going to help you love others, love everything, respect nature. Another benefit, I already said that, you don't have to struggle to achieve something like enlightenment. And then the last benefit is there is an inner expansion that happens when you fully realize this. When you fully realize your true nature is oneness with all, is source, is creator, and you are all things. Everything that you see, the fig tree, the sky, the plants, the animals, your children, your parents, your in-laws, anyone, and think of your worst enemy. That's how you can love them as yourself. And that's the golden rule. You can find it in all of the religious traditions. It's just said in different ways. So, yeah, and when you realize this, there's an inner expansion that happens. It might start out small at first and then grow, but you realize then you're able to hold all your lives when you realize this, that all things are ultimately one. I am all things. I have lived all lives. I will live all lives. Time doesn't exist. It's very expanding. You're able to hold more love. Your heart is more open. It's just a beautiful thing. So yeah, that's my view on reincarnation now in light of non-duality or oneness. Is that yes, I believe in reincarnation, but it's not just specific lives lived by specific separate personas. It's all lives are one, just playing out this dance of life. So I hope that made sense and wasn't too rambly, and I'm gonna go check on my kiddos.